Here's a little spot where we planted a bunch of lamandra. Well, just a small number actually, but we did a little bit of pulling out of a few sifton bushes which were encroaching on our path here, and planted out some of the lamandras. So that was about 5 months ago that it was planted out, and they're looking pretty good. So I think all of those have survived in this little section here, doing okay. As you can see, we did a little bit of erosion control type stuff, just using some fallen timber from around the property, and some straw as well, just to kind of use as a bit of a mulch and hold things together there as well. So trying to slow down the runoff that's coming off this hill. Some pretty thick Cassinia sifton bush there, and we've got some more of the lamandras planted out through in this section, including some ones that we would have planted out last year. So as in, that would have been, so it's March 2022 now. So like that one, for instance, that would have been from 2020, spring 2020 that we planted that sort of one. And there would be some more around here like that as well. So there's one there. But you know, because we've had a healthy season, there's some good growth in here. There's some ones from this year, as in 2021. Those ones were planted out. Most of those ones that were planted out fairly early in spring, looking really good. Did have some that didn't do so well, but were left in pots for a bit longer. But yeah, in general, the lamandras that were planted earlier are looking pretty good. So there's some more on the other side of the path, just over here as well. Here's a spot where we've done some wallaby grass planting. It's the red anther wallaby grass that we've got here. And this was a fairly bare patch with just a couple of kind of tussocks of the grass growing. So that's probably an original one there. And then this would have been planted in 2020, spring 2020. Looks like it could have been a bit more generous with some of the soil around there, but it's actually looking pretty healthy, or really healthy, looking really good. So some of those ones. There's one that we've got from 2021 planting. So just, you know, having a look at what's growing, filling out a few spots as well. And so now we can remove that guard because they're all nice and established now. And so one of my jobs is just to go and remove all those guards and let them do their thing, but looking quite good in terms of how they've taken this season. So here we've got some simple erosion control, or it's just really like a little bit of a small berm of sorts, just to slow down the water as it flows off the hill here and heads towards our track, which was getting a bit eroded. So just some fallen timber and some straw, usually accompanied by some plantings in different spots. So there's a lamandra that we've planted there, and there's some various ones planted up in this area as well. And then as we come down, so we've got a little bit more, and keeping it fairly natural and small. But when we come down to the road, I wanted to slow down some of this erosion that's going on down this path. So I've got some of this more hardcore rock or gravel, they call it ballast, just to try and slow it down a little bit. A little bit of a diversion of sorts, which you could actually do with a bit of a fine tuning. If there's a lot of water build up, but I've just sort of done that sort of thing a few times down the path to try and manage that flow of water a little bit. I might sort of add to that a little bit over time, but I'm just sort of monitoring at the moment how that's all coming together. We had the odd one or two lamandras that didn't make it, and I blame myself for leaving them in their tubes too long and not planting them out at the right moment. So it's just that they were staged. They weren't all planted out at the wrong time. The ones that were planted out earlier looked good and healthy, but it just took me a little while to work through the 100 lamandras and 100 wallaby grasses, especially when COVID interrupted a working bee that I had planned. So I was doing a big chunk of it on my own, and I just had to fit it in little bits. So it took a little bit longer, and yeah, some of them aren't as healthy, but most of them are doing pretty well, and that's just something I need to be conscious of for future plantings. had an amazing season for growth and for grasses and different flora this year because of the amount of water around. So our wallaby grasses, so this is our red anther wallaby grass that's all dried off now. It's in autumn. There's lots and lots of heads, seed heads and flowers this year. Whereas we haven't had that sort of density in previous years that I can recall. Certainly not a couple of years ago when we applied for our funding to assist us in this area. It was actually really dry and there was a lot more bare patches. So the situation has improved a lot, and a lot of that comes down to the season, but actually there's a little bit that we're helping out to help it along its way as well as part of this process.